Santa Claus knows when snowmen can die.
I became aware on the last night of the year. Not gradually, not gently. Awareness struck me like a crack through ice. One moment, I was nothing more than packed snow and borrowed shape, a joke of coal eyes and a crooked carrot grin. The next, I knew I was standing in the town square, beneath flickering lanterns, listening to the wind scrape frost along the cobblestones like fingernails. And I knew something else. I was not supposed to be awake yet. Snowmen usually don't think, not until the very end, not until the night when the old year exhales its final breath and the new one hesitates at the door. That moment, that thin, trembling seam between endings and beginnings, is when some of us open our eyes. Too early meant danger. I didn't know how I knew that. I just felt it in the way the cold pressed inward, heavy and watchful. Children had built me that afternoon. I remembered their laughter the way a bruise remembers impact, bright, sharp, already fading. They'd argued over my scarf, dropped mittens in the snow, made wishes they didn't say aloud. Wishes stick to snow. They sink in deep. By nightfall, the square was empty. Windows glowed softly. Church bells slept. Above me, the sky hung low and swollen, clouds bruised purple with coming snow. That was when I felt it, a presence moving through the frost. Not walking, not crawling, sliding like breath beneath ice. My coal eyes couldn't turn, but my awareness stretched, thin and trembling across the square. The snowdrifts rippled, lamppost shadows bent where they shouldn't. The air smelled wrong, sharp and metallic, like cold iron. Something was searching. And then, as if summoned by my fear, the bells rang. Not the midnight bells. These were slower, heavier. Each toll pressed deeper into the snow. Hooves followed. 8 of them. I knew who it was before I saw him. Every snowman does. Santa Claus stepped from the falling snow like a ghost stitched from red and white. His coat was darker than Storie said, wine-colored, heavy with age. Frost crusted his beard, not decorative, but earned. His boots sank into the snow as if it resisted him. The sleigh waited behind him, restless, runners whispering. He did not smile. He never does on nights like this. Santa stopped directly in front of me. For a long moment he simply looked, not at my face, but through it, as if listening for something trapped inside. Then he exhaled. "Too early," he murmured. His voice carried weight, not loud, final, like a door closing somewhere far away. My cold mouth couldn't move, but my thoughts surged, panicked and untrained. "You can see me. You know." His eyes flicked, just barely, toward the darkened alley beside the square. "I know," he said quietly. "That's why I'm here." The snow shifted again, closer this time. Santa's gloved hand tightened around the strap of his sack. "How long have you been awake?" I didn't know how to answer. I had no words yet, only impressions, emotions clumped together like wet snow. Long enough to feel it, long enough to be afraid. Santa closed his eyes. "That's long enough," he said. He reached into his coat, never the sack, and pulled free a small silver bell, not polished, worn smooth by centuries of use. He rang it once. The sound didn't travel outward. It folded inward, into the snow, into me. The presence recoiled. The alley fell still. For now. Santa leaned closer. His face was lined deeper than any chimney soot could explain. His eyes were ancient, burdened. "You felt it, didn't you?" he asked softly. "The ones that move when wishes go wrong." I wanted to scream yes. Instead, something else spilled out of me. "Am I going to die?" The question wasn't dramatic. It was practical. Snowmen don't fear death the way humans do. Melting is expected. It's the rule. Santa hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. "Snowmen don't usually last past New Year's," he said carefully. "And the ones who wake early," he trailed off, "they don't always get to see sunrise." The wind rose, sharp and sudden. From somewhere beyond the square, a child screamed, short, muffled, cut off too quickly. Santa turned toward the sound, jaw tightening. "They're hunting tonight. They always do when wishes are made in the wrong places with the wrong kind of heart." He looked back at me. "And you," he said quietly, "are the only one who can feel where they are." The snow beneath me shifted, not from fear, from purpose. Before I could understand what that meant, Santa placed his hand, warm, impossibly warm, against my frozen chest. "If you survive until midnight," he whispered, "you might live longer than any snowman ever has." Another scream echoed, closer this time. Santa straightened. "Hold fast," he told me. "Don't let them pass you." Then he turned and vanished into the snowstorm, bells silent, leaving me alone in the square, awake, afraid, and standing guard over something I did not yet understand. And beneath my feet, the snow began to breathe.
I did not know how to move. Snowmen aren't built for action. We are built to be seen, to be laughed at, posed with, forgotten. Yet as Santa disappeared into the storm, something inside me tightened, as if invisible ropes had been drawn taut through my frozen limbs. The snow beneath me breathed again. In, out, slow, deliberate. The alley to my left darkened unnaturally, swallowing lamplight like a mouth closing. Frost climbed the brick walls in branching patterns that looked too much like veins. I felt it then, a pressure behind my coal eyes, a pull deep within the snow packed around my core. They were close. The creatures Santa had spoken of. They weren't spirits, not exactly. They were leftovers, echoes of wishes that should never have been made, wishes spoken with envy or despair, or hunger sharp enough to cut reality thin. Winter listened. Winter always listens, and sometimes it answers badly. I felt one of them slide beneath the square, its presence rippling through the frost like a massive shadow beneath ice. Wherever it passed, the cold sharpened, becoming brittle and metallic. It knew I was awake. It knew I could feel it. The pressure intensified, urging me to point, to warn, to do something, anything. My stick arms trembled, snow cracking softly around them. With effort that felt like tearing myself apart, I tilted my awareness toward the alley. There, the snow buckled. A shape rose, not fully, never fully. It wore the suggestion of a child's outline, all wrong proportions and hollow edges. Its surface shimmered like frost on broken glass. No face, only a smooth, reflective blank that caught lamplight and twisted it. It moved without touching the ground. I felt its attention snap to me. A sound came from it, not a voice, but the memory of one. Whispers layered over whispers. Wish. The square's lanterns flickered. I wanted to close my eyes. I didn't have eyelids. The thing drifted forward, snow curling upward to meet it like eager hands. Wherever it passed, the ground cracked, the frost turning black-blue, poisoned by longing. Then, bells. Not Santa's silver one. These were sharper, faster, urgent. Reindeer burst from the storm, hooves striking sparks from the ice. Santa followed, coat whipping behind him, eyes blazing with something between fury and fear. He hurled the bell toward the creature. It rang twice, and the air folded. The thing shrieked, its form unraveling, collapsing back into the snow with a hiss like plunging iron. The alley went still. For a moment, only the storm breathed. Santa didn't relax. "There's more," he said grimly. As if summoned by his words, the square answered. Cracks spiderwebbed outward from beneath me. I felt them like fractures in my own bones. Pressure surged, not one presence, but several. "They're circling," Santa muttered, "drawn to you." "Me?" He looked at me sharply. "You're a beacon now. Awakened snow draws them like warmth." I would have laughed if I could. A beacon made of snow. "I'm sorry," he added quietly. "I hoped you'd wake closer to midnight." The sky darkened further. Snow began to fall heavier, thicker, not drifting, but pressing, as if the storm itself leaned in to watch. A new presence surfaced behind me. Then another. I felt them all, 3, maybe 4, moving beneath the square, beneath nearby streets, beneath homes where families slept, unaware that their wishes had grown teeth. Santa paced, thinking fast. "I can hold them back," he said, more to himself than to me, "but only until midnight. After that, the old rules loosen." A distant clock chimed. 11. My awareness sharpened painfully. Each presence felt clearer now, their hunger, their confusion. They weren't evil in the way stories like to say. They were unfinished, born of need and abandonment. One pressed close beneath me, its cold seeping upward. "Help," it whispered. The sound shook something loose inside me. It didn't want to destroy. It wanted to be seen. "Don't listen," Santa warned gently. "They don't know what they are anymore." The pressure surged. Snow erupted nearby as one of them surfaced, taller than the first, its shape flickering between adult and child, its edges fraying. I felt myself tipping, not physically, internally. Something was changing. The snow packed around my core softened, then tightened again, reshaping itself. I felt weight settle, not mass, but meaning. Santa noticed instantly. "No," he breathed, "you're stabilizing." "What does that mean?" I thought desperately. He met my gaze. "It means," he said slowly, "you might not melt at all." The creatures recoiled, sensing it too. "You can anchor them," Santa said, awe creeping into his voice. "Hold them in place until the new year resets the balance." Fear surged, deep, cracking. If I anchor them, I won't move, I won't leave, I might never change again. Another clock chimed, 11:30. The creatures closed in, snow surging like waves. Santa stepped beside me, placing his hand against my shoulder. "I won't lie to you," he said softly. "This will hurt." He looked older than winter. But if you hold, he continued, if you stay awake until midnight, you'll give them rest. And me? I asked. Santa's eyes softened. Then, he said, we'll see if snowmen can live past their endings. The storm roared, the creatures lunged, and I held. I did not scream. Snowmen don't have lungs, but if I had, the sound would have shattered every window in the square. The creatures struck the boundary forming around me, not a wall, but a stillness. The snow at my base hardened into something denser than ice, glowing faintly with a blue-white light that pulsed in time with my awareness. Each impact sent a shock through me. Not pain exactly, more like memory being torn open. I felt flashes that were not mine. A whisper, a boy kneeling in snow, whispering that he wished his father would come back. A woman staring at a dark window, wishing the year would end faster, no matter the cost. A child wishing to be someone else. Anyone else. The wishes had nowhere to go, so winter kept them. The creatures howled, not in rage, but frustration, confusion. They swirled around me, their forms blurring, stretching, unraveling as my presence pinned them in place. Santa moved like a storm himself, ringing the bell again and again, each chime tightening the invisible weave holding the square together. Frost spread in sigils across the ground, ancient marks, older than language. "Hold on," he called to me. "You're doing it. Don't let go now." I wanted to tell him I didn't know how I was holding on. I was afraid that if I understood it, I'd lose it. The cold deepened. Not the clean cold of winter mornings. This was heavy, crushing, the kind that sinks into thought itself. My coal eyes dimmed. The world narrowed to pulses of light and shadow. A presence rose directly in front of me, closer than the others. It was smaller, thinner, a child's shape again. It reached out with a half-formed arm, frost unraveling from its edges. "I didn't mean to," it whispered. The words cut deeper than any blow. I understood then. These weren't monsters. They were wishes that never learned how to end. And neither had I. The clock tower groaned. 11:45.
Santa stumbled as one of the creatures surged, his knee hitting the snow. For the first time, I felt him strain, his magic bending, cracking under centuries of use. He looked up at me, breath fogging thickly. "I'm sorry," he said hoarsely. "I never wanted this for you." Something inside me settled. This was what snowmen were for. Not laughter, not melting, holding the weight of winter so others don't have to. The boundary flared brighter. The creatures shrieked, not in pain, but release. One by one they slowed, their frantic movement easing into stillness. The shapes softened, losing sharp edges, becoming something gentler, quieter, like sleep. The storm began to thin. Snow fell lighter now, drifting instead of pressing. The clock struck 11:50. I felt myself thinning, not melting, spreading. My awareness stretched outward, no longer bound to coal and stick, but to the square itself, to the snow-laced streets, to the rooftops where new snow softened old grief. Santa sensed it. "No," he said urgently. He struggled to his feet and pressed his palm to my chest again. "Stay with me. Stay you." I wanted to, but something else was happening. The boundary wasn't just holding the creatures, it was changing them. Their whispers softened, words untangling into sighs. One by one, their forms sank back into the snow, not violently, not erased, but accepted. The square grew quiet, peaceful, too peaceful. The clock prepared to strike. Midnight loomed like a held breath. I felt myself fading, my edges blurring, my thoughts thinning like snow in sunlight. Santa, I thought desperately, I'm disappearing. He shook his head, eyes shining. No, you're not.
He reached into his coat again, deeper this time, and pulled out something I had never seen. A small, cracked hourglass. The sand inside shimmered like powdered starlight. "This," he said softly, "is why I come every year." He turned it over. The final grains fell. Midnight struck. The sound rolled through the world, not loud, but final. The year exhaled. The new one stepped forward. Light surged through the square. The boundary collapsed, not violently, but gently, like snow settling after a storm. The last traces of the creatures dissolved into the ground, their wishes finally at rest. And me? I fell inward. For one terrifying moment, there was nothing. Then, warmth. Not heat. Belonging. I felt myself reform, not exactly as before. The snow of my body repacked itself, denser, steadier. My awareness snapped back into shape. I could feel the ground again, the sky, the quiet joy humming through the world like a new song. Santa laughed, a broken, relieved sound I had never heard from him before. "You did it," he whispered. The first sunrise of the year crept over the rooftops, and I did not melt. Children emerged soon after, blinking in the pale light. One pointed at me, eyes wide. "He's still here." Another laughed. "Snowmen aren't supposed to last this long." Santa stepped back into the storm, already fading, but he looked at me one last time. "Some endings," he said, "are just doors we didn't know how to open yet." Then he was gone. I remained, watching the new year begin, alive.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Ho, ho, ho.
If you liked the story, subscribe and like it, and also write a comment about what topic you would like to hear about.